Well, hello, Dr. Contrast Live here. Hope all is well, and just want to take a moment to welcome all of you. Just began a new stream here today, and but before we go into what we're going to go subject matter that's listed today, the iPhone sketches that we kind of highlighted on the outline of the program today or the stream today. Most of you, hopefully, who joined in on Monday, I did a little study on the Audi GT TT. Our GTRS, and just thought I'd take a moment here and show you what the final product looked like. We went back in, I think about 90% of it completed on Monday's stream. I started a line drawing and got it all set, kind of inked in some of the graphics and so forth, and got about maybe 90% of it completed on the stream itself on Monday. And since then, after off air, I went back in and just finished up on some of the detailing in the background area here, and put some of the nomenclature of the graphics in, added some of the wheel graphics and so forth, and then just to kind of settle a little bit, put a little bit of ground texture in, a little bit of track texture to kind of give it more drama or some character on the overall impact of the sketch itself. So that's where we ended up with this GT series. I hope you enjoyed going through the stream as much as I did on Monday, and very much animated. And I thought we'd take a moment there again on Monday. We did a lot of little thumbnail sketches, a lot of rapid sketch work and the like. But I thought it'd be just nice to kind of pull back the screen a little bit and slow down the operation and do a nice line drawing study and take you from step one, sketch all the way through the color, and then final illustration, and added some of the detail, for example, as I said, the background, the corporate logo, and the Nürburgring just in red outline here to kind of give some sort of context. So for those of you, again, who joined me on Monday to see this thing unfold, I sincerely thank you for your time. It was marvelous to see you. And again, thank you for your time participating in my stream here. But today we're going to switch gears. I'm going to get rid of this. And we're going to go into another little study here of just putting together some thumbnail sketches or very quick little studies on iPhone sketches. I don't know about you, but I think it's an incredible piece of technology. It's a computer with a telephone on it, obviously, and a variety of other aspects in the actual unit itself. But I'm almost amazed at how simple it is, and I understand why it's done that way. But I just thought sometimes it'd be kind of nice to do a series of little concept sketches on maybe some cosmetic changes, adding color, material, features, and so forth. So I'm going to go through a couple of pages here today on just some really rapid ballpoint pen sketches, a little bit of pencil and marker added to put together a sketch flavor or composition here on this page. And I can't stress enough, I've said this from day one when I started doing streams on Twitch here. I'm a huge proponent of sketches. Sketches to me tell your story. It's a thought process unfolding on paper. It gives you the opportunity to kind of make some mistakes and go through the process of laying some ideas down. In addition to that, it opens up the floodgates of innovation and ideation. Some of the mistakes we make and some of the errors we go through become really profound statements in putting together a system and making things happen. So let's start here with just this kind of rough through some ballpoint pen. We'll get this guy started. Just kind of nice and easy. Maybe look at some sketches that have a little bit of flavor to it. Notice a little bit more roundness in the shape itself, just to kind of start that process out here. Let's kind of bring this into play. Now let's just take this right on through. Let's kind of do little design lines here. This is going to be a little cosmetic study here. Let's take this thing and run it over. And let's take that and run it over. A little bit of a color break in this thing. A little more spike at the end here. And right down that center line. And then maybe a little feature that it's not really in that system today is a little pod up on top here. That might be a nice little nesting ground for things like maybe it's its own self-contained little charger that sits inside that unit. And they begin to utilize that as a little storage space here. Now let's just kind of do this a little further. A little idea. Put the sketch down first. Lay that in and back in the center line. Let's just take a little bit of marker and stain this thing in. Maybe there's got a little bit of a pocket change in this thing. We'll come back in and put a little bit of tone to this. Again, it's just cosmetics. Up on top. Pass little stains. Let that dry a little bit. And this little pocket in here has its own little storage container piece. Let's go back and put that on the side just a touch. There we are. Come back in. A little bit of detail on this thing. Apply the sketch off the page. Got a little bit of recess in this guy with a ballpoint pen, a little bit more tone to it. And this little storage area that comes in and provides where maybe the electrical cord sits and you pull that out of there, it begins to charge it automatically instead of fumbling through a whole series of things to look for the actual charging device itself. Let's go back in one more time with a little more stain in this thing. Let's look at the color. A little graphics change here, just to give it some character. More tone change there. And last but not least, maybe a couple little pieces here to kind of get where the highlight side is on this guy. Just put a bit of tone in this thing. Pardon me as I can run across it, just the radius on that little piece here. Take that across, take that across. A little bit of highlight into here. And a little bit of tone back up on top here, just to kind of, a little bit of color to it. Nice little fast sketch. A little bit of cosmetic change on the little iPhone study here. Let's go back into this one here, little front elevation. Rotate the paper. A little bit of a bevel up on top here. Just kind of break this up a little bit. Again, that same little concept of that little storage piece up on top here for charging devices, and then just break that in the corner here. Just the graphics. And again, just idea sketches. I'm not really saying they're just sketches or ideas. I may not ever come to reality, but I've always been concerned about how that thing is so simple and so discreet unto itself, so plain. I can put a little bit more cosmetics to it, just enough to kind of give it a little bit of personality in the shadow side here, and into that. And come right back down with a little bit of highlight line on this breaker here. Again, a little bit more ballpoint pen, this thing nice and simple. Let's take that marker again and give a little bit of stain process in the middle here. And a little bit of a texture change, just graphics. This can be like a pearl gray of some sort, body case maybe in silver, and a pearl gray accent part that comes into that little area here. And that's it. Let's put a little bit of that into it, just a touch. And then in the shadow side here, just along that body side there, just change that into shadow. Nice and simple. There it is. Let's get the highlight side on this thing. Just put a bit of color to it, draw that through, bring that into play. Color over that. And again, just an indication where the light source is coming from. Just nice little simple theme sketches about what ifs. What if we kind of build this thing up and do a little bit of this? Again, another little pass at this thing, just kind of run it through. And there we are. So far, so good. Just little quick thumbnail sketches, very ghost-like. Not a lot of elements here in terms of a lot of definition, but just really good look at possibilities of making cosmetic changes to this iPhone say we're looking at here. Let's go back into this. Keep going here. A little bit of roundness to it, maybe. Again, over on this side. Just a touch more roundness, not so flat, not so austere. Let's bring it in just a bit. Let's bring this in just a bit. Take that in, run it through that center line, and just get the radius up on top here. And there's that little break line right there. Again, same process. Maybe that just kind of digs in. A little piece of information there where you actually take that charging device and it rolls right inside the form itself. Maybe we come out of here with this little break line. It takes a little bit of roundness into it. On off switch. Run that through the core here. And again, little ballpoint perspective study of what that shape is. Hey, Captain Nemo, how are you? Good to see you. How are you? Just doing some little thumbnail quick sketches here on some iPhone studies. Really not looking at anything that's innovative in terms of new devices and new ideas. I've always been concerned about not always, but I'm always concerned about that the actual phone itself is so favorite. It's great. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a terrific piece of equipment. Maybe some little studies here on just changing the content and graphics. Some little features like maybe adding some surface changes to it, going a little rounder with it, going a little sheerer with it, and adding some little graphic changes. For example, like just putting insert color in some areas, just to put a little more character to it. Just kind of fill this back in again. Just real quick, fast, little thumbnail studies. Hope you're well. Everything going good for you? Excellent. Thanks for tuning in here today, just to kind of look at some things. Let's go back into this guy. Let's get this all lined up. Put a little bit more graphics into this thing. just kind of slow that down a little bit here. I'll come back in with a little bit of pencil work. Let's do this too. Let's get a bit of tone on this thing on the side here. I don't know if you tuned in at the very beginning here, Nemo, but I don't know, let me take a moment here to pause. I think you were involved in that last Monday session here. Just, if you didn't see this in the very beginning, pardon me, that's the finished piece on that Audi GT that we were working with on Monday. I opened up the stream with, as you remember, on Monday, we just went through about 80% of it was complete on the actual stream itself, and so we'd sign off and add some detail work to it, which I did, and really began to put together some things like, again, the wheel graphics in, the background information, some of the logo work and the ring background, and just put a little bit of foreground with some dry pastel, give it more of a setting. So a lot of little things were added, for example, some of the detailing and some of the execution of some of the riveting and body surface and panel work, getting the more cockpit detail, and again, background, foreground, and getting some wheel graphics. Keep it really, really evil looking. So I just thought you might want to take a peek at that finished product here. So that's that, and back to this study today, where we're actually moving into some of these guys. And let's just kind of carry on here with just getting some cosmetic changes on real rapid little sketches, some iPhone studies. Again, more tone down below here. And again, just kind of take it around the corner and off the page. There it is. I'll get a little bit of highlight on this guy using tone paper, like a crystal gray. A little bit of number 2 cool gray marker, just to kind of get some character in this thing. And again, use an on-off switch, get that in place. Detail that little recess area. Come back in through here. It's more line weight change. Probably I kind of get this stick up to speed here. Again, just no fuss. Just want to go through a whole process of putting some quick ideas down on how to put this guy together in terms of maybe graphic changes, color inserts, little features like charging devices being stored inside the actual phone itself. And pardon me here, I just sharpen this guy again. Oh, by the way, too, Nemo, you mentioned some time ago about the website, and the website has really taken on some really severely good, strong changes in the architecture. We're adding more video links to it, so hopefully, as I said last week, we're hoping to wrap it up, have it complete and active before the start of the end of this week. So it looks like we're a little bit of a delay here, so I'm very sorry to apologize for the long-term delay here. But please stay tuned and keep looking after it, and we should be hopefully banking on the fact the reason we had a lot of difficulty with it, not difficulty, but a lot of adjustments to make, we put everything into a new platform. So everything was all over the place. We kind of condensed it all to one platform, one media group that holds future videos, which I'll be starting next week, going into an intermediate series on transportation design and some additional things other than the beginner series. So all these bits and pieces, for example, Patreon, YouTube, Twitch, all these things were all over the place. So we brought it all back under one umbrella, and we're adding new video insert pieces and adding some new freebies on it. So there's a lot of active changes in it. So stay tuned, and again, thanks for your patience with it. And let us know if you get a chance to take a look at it. Hope you'll join forces with us. So here we go. Let's carry on here with a little bit more. Just thumbnail sketches, really rapid. Just kind of go through this guy. Looking for just cosmetics. Sometimes it's just a simple matter of maybe putting a bevel on it. Nothing significant in it, putting that structure down. Running through it. Break it in again. That little feature. That little storage piece. That little area here, that little recess would kind of hold the charging cord and the like. So, yeah, very good. Well, thanks, Nemo. Again, I really appreciate your patience. You were the one who brought it up last week. And I thought we'd be ready by then, but all the changes we're making were absolutely monumental, which in the long run is going to be better to process. Don't misunderstand. So I think it'd be very worthwhile. So let's go back and just keep it nice, and maybe it's just a simple direct shot at this, where you get that little value change. You know, maybe it's platinum onto a neutral gray. Just kind of stain that in. Maybe look at a series of different little passes. More reflective metallic. some more stain. A little more pressure change to get a little more value in there. Again, a little bit of a seam change in here, just a little bit of an offset drop. There you are. A little more texture back into it. And coming back up a little bit more highlight. Let's kind of get this into place here. A little crisper on the inside. And again, a little more hot spot running right through that shape. Just, maybe it's a simple little, maybe it's just a little bevel change that kind of takes the character into another operation altogether. Now, let's go down the line here. Again, just ballpoint pen, Prism pencil. Sketch through this. Now maybe this guy, maybe it's time, for example, for some of this stuff to get a little more animated. Maybe it's just a partial screen in the area itself, and then we take a look at this thing. Let's kind of put a little radius on this thing and kind of sweep it up here. Maybe the lens sits there, and all of a sudden, it opens up and does the following. There's going to be a calling device of some sort or an inventory on all your contacts, but that would just kind of pop up out of that screen itself and become more of that type of a feature. And for what it's worth, let's kind of change gears here for a little bit, put a little bit more accent in this thing. Into that radius, take around a little bit of an accent break. It's going to be like a diamond black, so to speak, at the end of that telephone and the phone itself. Now back into this. It's got some of the surface work to pull off here. And again, in the shadow underneath that fillet. And unlike the other, maybe we just take a little bit of this and say, what if it's got a little bit of a lens system to it here? Maybe it's just got a nice little clear little lens with a sky tone in it. And that sits inside this area here. Get that all set. Take that in. And redefine that just a little bit more. And let's show where that radius is. It's kind of swings out of there. It comes in and does the following. Goes up. And also folds back. And just a little bit of information in here. It's going to put a bit of highlight. maybe a video screen of some sort that just kind of gives you information. The iconic Star Trek. Hope, yeah. True. Let's keep this guy sharp a little bit here. That opens up. Comes across that edge. Into that highlight. And then let that marry on in there. Pardon me as I move this thing around a little bit. And a little bit more reflective quality inside this thing here. And this maybe is where the majority of the information is kind of being displayed right in through here, but it reflects back up into the screen above. So just an idea of some gestures here about how to put together this whole thing about getting more mixture into the concept of the actual phone itself. So let's move along here. Get this all set and then move this out of the way here. Let's kind of get this guy started. Bring this into play here. Just kind of pull this through. And screen inboard just a bit. Split it. And then just take it off the, again, a little bit of a graphic change in this guy. Let's take that on out. Now this one, maybe instead of just moving the screen and flipping it like that guy does, pardon me, maybe that guy just does the following. It comes out and slides that direction, just moves out and gives you more of a visual picture plane to work with here. So I'm just going to move this through here. That moves out and both back in. And again, so it's got a little more glass or more of a transparent surface. It's more doing that. And then let's get back into more ballpoint pen definition here. Put a shadow into this thing. Get off the one side here. A bit of tone across the top. More shadow. And again, just a little bit more tone underneath there. So keep it nice and subtle. Again, cosmetic break and also a little bit of feature break, where this thing just kind of rolls out and gives you more screen to work with as far as availability is concerned. And let's put a little more tone back into this thing. Again, maybe just a little more transparency in this thing. This is where that static screen would sit here. That sits there, and the whole screen just kind of moves out, gives you a little more latitude to work with here. So that's another little concept in terms of maybe making this phone a little bit more animated. It's a little bit more on the futuristic side, but nonetheless, these days could be coming very, very rapidly, where the screen actually moves on out. It's a static when it's stored, and when that thing begins to dial in, or you're receiving a call, you can open it right up and receive a lot of information on that situation here. So let's go back into here again. A little elevation, setting back to something a little more cosmetic. Oh, pardon me. Nice and simple. A little bit of a breakup on top, a little bit of a brow in there, a little thumb grip of some sort. It comes right down, splits it up a little bit. Across the top. A bit of theme in this thing. Nice simple graphic change. More graphic element down below there. Hey, hello Horton, how are you? Good to have you on board. Just going through a nice series of little thumbnail sketches, hopefully, for some iPhone concept work. Maybe it's the more cosmetics where you actually put a little bit of color or some character to it. Hey, Horton, how are you? Thank you very much for joining us here. Just thought we'd give you a real quick overview here. We're going into some little iPhone sketches where it takes it away from just being an absolute rectangular form. Nothing wrong with that at all, but maybe some innovation of adding a bit of color, some animation. Maybe the screen moves, maybe it slides out. Little charging devices that are stored in the back of the phone itself. So those kind of things are there to kind of for that benefit here, and just kind of put back in a little bit of, let's put a little bit of highlight in this thing and draw right through it. Back in a little more hotspot. Pardon me as I tone this thing around just a bit. And put more tone in this thing just to kind of take it away from on the paper itself. Do this a little bit of hotspot. Let's cover that up and just do that with it. Right across the top, highlight real boldly. Take it in the shape here. And again, a little more impact in that. Maybe that's a nice strong design line that goes right through the entire shape. And again, this little split across the top, just to reinforce some of the weights. Nothing fancy, just another cosmetic breakup of that actual shape itself. Now, let's go back in and do another one here. Again, a bit of a cosmetic change, a little bit of an offset. With this guy, we're going to rotate it the other way. Maybe that lens just kind of flips up. It gives you more viewing space. It goes right back into the actual shape itself, so it gives you more of a panorama in the form itself. And it's going to do this. Let's get that down. Let's tell us where that thing's moving. That rotates. In that format, that whole surface just kind of spins right around in itself right there. A little more transparency in it, so it's got a little bit more glass surface to it. So it's that coming into that. And we'll get that highlight to kind of run through the shape. Here it is in the closed position. And let's kind of tone this back a little bit so there's the actual bump out, for example, where that form is actually going to take place. A bit of line work change, a bit of a rotation here. It actually stops on the lid itself. Put a character underneath this thing. And last but not least, again, a little bit of a cosmetic change. Get this inboard line to read a little bit. And again, a little bit of a texture change up on top here, just to kind of give it some character. And there's another little variation on a theme there, working with this whole form of getting these phones to kind of a little bit more animated. Now let's try this. Something a little bit more angular. A little shaded here. More of a brow. Again, a little bit of texture change up on top of this guy. And bit of highlight. There we are. Hey, Pixel, how you doing? Good to see you. I've been a great week. How about you, Chief? And Horton, if you're still there, how are you doing? It's really good to have you on board here. Looking at a couple of these little pencil studies or these little ballpoint pen sketches on some iPhone systems and like just maybe making graphic changes or texture changes. Nothing really earth-shaking in terms of innovation, but just looking at what ifs. If it's a little storage system up on top for the actual cord itself, or a cosmetic change in color, metallic to maybe chromes or metals and so forth. A little bit of a flip screen where it opens up, and this guy slides. That kind of does the same thing, flips up and over. And just looking at a whole series of variations on little thumbnail sketches here. So that would kind of wrap up the first page of just looking at little thumbnail sketches or ideation studies on what this iPhone system might look like with just simple cosmetic change whatsoever. Let's go back and do the following here. Let's change gears here. We'll go back to this. Pardon me. Let's kind of move along. Again, a little rounder with this thing. Take some of this austerity out of it. Just a nice little shape here. Draw through it. A little bit of a seam line in it. Back there. follow that through. Little on-off switch back in through here. Couple little controls. But let's take this guy and rotate. Let's rotate this as a screen portion here. Let's do this. Let's get this guy up. That kicks up and animates. Pardon me here. And does the following. So now that screen does this. It rotates up. Now it comes out of here. Just going to put it in play here just for a second here. And when it's all said and done, there it is. Just got to draw through this guy. Just a nice simple pillbox shape. Notice it's not as a steer. It's a little softer, but nonetheless, hopefully that'll work for us. And by the way, Pixel, not to worry. I know you've been extremely busy. No problem whatsoever. I'm glad you're on board today, and I hope you're doing well. Just got to put a little bit of tint in this thing. Surface work on it. Nothing fancy. Just want to get some basic character down. And that kind of can nest in here like this. Again. Where that lens pops up, falls into place here. And again, maybe a glass surface that shows a lot of reflective qualities, a little bit of character in this thing. Let's do this. Better. There we are. A little bit of reflective quality in this thing, then reflect it right back into that case itself. There's a little bit of that. And let's sharpen these guys up a little bit. This paper really grinds up the paper itself, which we've got a lot of tooth to it, so it really breaks down that pencil really in a hurry. So I apologize for all the noise here, gang. And a little bit of a graphic break up here. Let's do this. Just a simple little avenue here. Let's go back in and do this. Just gonna get this one more pass. A little bit more reflective. So it's a little bit more reflective screen up on top there. This thing just flips out of there. And that's it. That's it. Pixel. Yeah, the white pencil does really bring it out a little bit. Boy, it just breaks the daylights out of the tooth, though, man. I think it really grinds it up quite a bit. So let's carry on here, gang. Just going to put this into play here, a little vertical. Just really rapid, emotional sketches on what ifs. If you can take this iPhone, begin to put a little bit more definition to it, a little more shape. That's what we're looking at here. Just kind of bring that on through. More shape in this thing. Let's kind of break it up and do that. And that. It's a little bit of a perimeter in this thing. Does that. Now, I'm going to take this thing, we're going to rotate this guy quite a way. Let's do this. We rotated that by doing the font. Now we're going to rotate this pin right out of here. This whole lens is going to move on us. So we're going to take that same shape and it's going to do this. There's position 1 that comes out of that area. And as it moves up a little further, foreshortened. And again, last position, standing upright, going right through that form. This guy, moves in 3 different areas here. There's my rotation from that point right on up into that point right there. That's that 3-stage piece coming up and letting that lens just kind of move from static to a very interesting shape here. So let's do this. More graphics in this thing. Let's put a little bit of highlight in this beauty. Again, pick up where that lens is, or that change of pace is in those 3 areas. Let's put a shadow in this thing as it starts to move. And again, let's bring that graphic shape right into this lower piece. Color change, maybe a bit of a texture change. Just to kind of break up the form a little bit. One last pass. This graphic breakup here. Again, let's put a tint and sky in this thing so we know where we are. That's that lens moving. And that lens moving. A little bit of nomenclature here. A little pulse button here. Let's put a little more line wind in this thing. And again, rotation. Does that, as well as that. And just for what it's worth, let's do a little elevation study here in this guy. Just a little profile study. Show you how thin this thing is. A little bit of bulk on the backside here, where that lens kind of sits in. And that's my pivot point right there. It's going to move out like so. So let's kind of just ink that in a little bit. That does that. That's where that lens piece is going to go. So it's going to just a little bit of highlight on that thing. Tells us where that thing's going to move. That one's going to animate all the way through, and then we'll just kind of put a little bit of this on top of that. Little side view study. That's just enough to give us some definition. And one more time. Up on top, pardon me as I move around here just a bit. A little break line. And the rest of the shape. So there's a couple of little studies right there, gang. Just putting some pieces together. Hey, Shazan, how are you? Good to see you. How's everything? Let me go back here just for a moment for Horton's benefit. Let me stop here just for a second. We started this stream today. I don't know if you were with me on Monday, but I don't recall or not. But we actually did the beginnings of a study on this GTS Audi GT. And I thought I'd come back and look at it here and let you see what the finished product is for those of you who are coming a little bit late here. Hey, Chip, how are you? But I've been just got into those. Yeah, thanks very much. So that's where we ended up the stream, for example, on Monday. We had maybe 90% of it in place, but I just took a moment here after the stream ended and went right back in and put together some of the finishing touches, like some wheel graphics, some more nomenclature, and signature pieces on the machine itself, tightened down the background a little bit, added the ring, and above all else, just kind of planted it on the ground surface with a little bit more of that nice little background study here, the track study. So that's the finished piece of that Audi GT. And for those of you with me on Monday, I really thank you for taking the time to be with me to kind of go through the entire process. It takes an awful lot of patience to go through it from your point of view, to watch this old guy kind of put this down and put that down and change this and change that. So thank you. I thought you'd like to see the finished product. That's it. And if you're interested at all, let me know. This thing can be available for printed purposes. If you'd like a print of this guy, just contact me at jim@drcontrast.com, and then we can arrange a pricing policy on it. I don't want to get into a situation or market over the Twitch system. I don't know if I'm supposed to do it or not, but they are available. I'm starting to build a repertoire of pieces to put on my website for like a store of some sort, the Dr. Contrast store. So again, thanks for your patience. There's a finished product, gang. And for those of you again who came a little bit late, we started this iPhone series. And again, those of you who did come in like Horton and Shazan, thank you so much. And also for those of you just started, I just took a look at the opening premise and the stream today was, well, there's an iPhone process out there. Yeah, they're great. That's a tremendous product. I have no contentions at all about that. But I just wonder about some of the shape definition. Does it have to be sort of rectangular? I know why it has to be. But is there room for maybe some concept changes, for example, like contour changes, color accent pieces, animated screens, and things that do, for example, storage areas for the curtains, for the actual cord itself, they kind of store back into the machine. You just pull it out and it's ready to go. So that's the first plate we started with, and then we're on to this one, where we're just kind of wrapping up some other variations on the theme where the actual screen opens up. This could be an indication of some sort of a mapping device or some sort of a Waze system that kind of gives you some input. And rather than being a part of the telephone, this whole thing would flip up, then the phone would be underneath it, obviously. The same process here. This might be a directory of some sort that just flips up for information on who you're trying to get in touch with, and then you open up the whole process, and it's a typical phone system underneath there. So let's carry on here. We'll wrap some things up as we go here. Let's kind of go back into this. There's another approach to maybe it's more of this, where we actually change that shape and go parabolic with it. So it's more of this. Pardon me as I move around a little bit here. And to those of you who are still with me, thank you so much for joining forces today. Lots of fun to just have you on board. I really appreciate your time and effort to give it up on a Wednesday afternoon and just kind of watch this guy crank through some things. Horton Hustle, these give me some Star Trek feels. Love it. Hey, that's what it is. Thank you very much. I'll just kind of step that out a little bit. Step that out a little bit. Go back to the vertical. Back to the vertical. I'm going to draw through it. Get that same round shape to work. Maybe not so static. Let's kind of straighten it up a little bit more. This has a little bit of an offset in it, so it's got a little more of a cosmetic change to it. Then it kind of breaks and does that, and then we can kind of come in here and draw through it and break in and do that. But the feature here is this. Up on top, there's a floating screen that just kind of sits back in the shape itself. That comes out of there. And again, on off module. It stops short, kind of curls in a little bit, curls in a little bit. But this up on top is a little bit of slot, so this does this. Steps back a little bit. Let's kind of clean that up a little bit. Comes out. And again, like the others we're showing you, it just kind of lifts out of there. This slides in, comes back out again, and gives you that same operation in terms of maybe it's a directory of some sort. It actually animates, and it's still protected. Comes up and out of there. So that's a little more of a glass system than it is anything else. A little bit of sky tone in that thing to kind of give a little more wallop to it. Now let's put a bit of highlight in this thing. Let's come across this thing and start to really bounce the shape out just a bit more. Into this. And pardon me as I sharpen this guy. It's kind of a bit of a cosmetic change in this thing too. Yeah, this is more of a Canson paper, Pixel. Thank you for your question. It's a little rougher tooth, but it's a toned paper. It's got a little more tooth to it, and it really kind of gives you a lot of drama between the highlights and shadows. So thank you for bringing that up. Just got to put a little bit of surface in this thing now. Change its character. Part of my back here, my hands. There it is. A little bit of tone change here. It's a little graphic identity in this thing. Just get a little more comp. And again, on the other side here, just kind of move it through. Just looking at features, for example, again, sort of be redundant, but just to kind of put some graphics or some change of pace into this iPhone purpose. Maybe it's a little bit more of a pictograph piece here. It has a little more. If I'm still on screen, part, thank you. Boy, sort of moving around quite a bit here again, just trying to get the right thrust on the paper to get these things to read a little bit more. And a little more hot spot on this side here. And that. Went back into that. And across this brow. And again, it's indicate where that screen is, just coming up onto that surface itself. A couple of leaders. There's another approach to it there, gang. Just looking at certain things that move and are animated. Chip 7, you can clearly see in the history of cell phones where the 5 phone was released. Everything before had weird shapes and colors and lights. After iPhone, it's all glass and rectangle. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That changed the entire paradigm. Chip, you're absolutely correct. But that doesn't mean we can't have a little bit of fun with maybe color changes and textures and like, but your observation is perfect. Also love the idea with one that has glass retracts broken away to me. Phone cells. Yeah. See what shows on. We've gotten so used to everyone having the same glass brick in their pockets. I bet there would be a market for some kind of retro series with the functional design. So, yeah, I think you're right, Chazon. That's a good point. Again, that was one of the reasons for putting the stream on today, by going back into the histrionics of the iPhone being so iconic and so squared up. And some of the early stuff was much more shape related, that had a lot more romance to it. Now, I realize the technology is a little difficult to do so, but maybe some of the glass surfaces, some of the hyperlons we're dealing with now, and some of the other forms we're dealing with could move into this area and put some personality back into these guys, so we're not carrying the same old shell with a different pearl gray or bright silver, whatever it might be. So that's a great point. So thank you. Chip, you're right too. I think the shapes were much more romantic 5, 10, 15 years ago. Now we need to bring some of that back if we can with some of this material here. So let's just kind of do this. Let's go back in here, change the shape again. A little more adventuresome. That's just really neat little concept sketches here, guys. Nothing, just practice time. As I said in the beginning of the stream, I'm a huge believer in just sketches. Sketches to me are overwhelmingly powerful. They teach you a lot of lessons about what's right, what's wrong, how to put certain systems together. Maybe this is a kind of neat little deal where you've got the actual plug charge on the other end of the phone, and it's into an adapter, and it's down below and so forth. So that could be kind of a neat little change of pace too. So let's put some crown on this. Let's bring a little bit of section change back in this part as I move this pad around. I'm sorry. Move this through. Move that through. A little bit of definition or detail change. Again, just a little bit of truncation up on top. But again, we'll go back to that theme we had in some of the earlier sketches where this thing, this little cavity here, could be a little flip-up piece that all of a sudden stores like the cord itself, where it's actually inside the body of the phone. And the actual phone that we're looking at, this would be the back side. The actual phone surface is back here. So that's what you're viewing at. That's where your viewing area is. Let's kind of ink that in just a little bit. Let's kind of put a more tone to this. That's where the actual viewing area is here. That goes back here. Let's put a little tone on this and a little valley here. Maybe this has a little bit of graphics to it as well. That you release that. And out of that comes this chord. Well, that's stored inside that cavity. If you're going to move that, that just kind of releases itself, comes out of there. And let's do this. Let's kind of put that same process into action here. That's where the valley is. Let's kind of put that in there. A bit of tone in this. And again, there's a bit of a surface change in here. Highlight along that edge. On that side, keeping it nice and subtle, nothing pressed. And a shadow underneath there. That's that. Come in here. And last but not least, I'm going to highlight on this, guys. Pardon me as we kind of sharpen this stick a little bit. How are we doing there, gang? Making sense? So far, so good. Shazam, I agree. Pixel, massive disappointment. The first thing I do when I get a phone call is covered up with a case protection. Even some stylish built-in Rubbermaid exterior is part of the design. Just the corners or something. Yeah, that may be kind of neat too. Just a minimal piece there. Shazam, great point. So once again, Pixel, what did you say here? Too bad that foldable screen idea failed. Yeah, me too. I think that was a bit of a failure, wasn't it? But maybe we can bring it back and just sketch form, have some fun with it. Back to highlight. Back to highlight. A little bit of surface changing through here. Bring that across. And just tint this in just a little bit. Bit of that tether coming out of there. That's where the charging system might be stored, etc. Comes out of there, and so on. Down this side here. And for what it's worth, let's kind of change gears here, put a bit of tone in this thing. Trying to minimize it. Then we'll do a little trick here. We'll kind of reflect some tint back into this thing once we get this inked in. I really appreciate those of you who are hanging on here. I hope this has been of some help to you, just to get some basic sketches down. And really what I'm doing today is just getting ideas out. And I'm not saying there's anything that I really have fallen in love with. It's the idea of getting treated with some of the shapes we're dealing with here to kind of get back to some romance with some form, color, etc., some a little more detail in it. It's going to come back in there and do this. A bit of highlight. And just for what it's worth. It has sort of that character to it, right? When it rings or it comes, that thing begins to pulsate with a certain color and just has that. And let's do this underneath there too. Let's kind of get this guy to just kind of work. Plug-in devices there. There it is. That's another little study here. Just kind of changing pace a bit here. I always love watching. And yeah, thank you. Likewise, I sincerely appreciate all of you paying attention or coming in today to watch this stuff. I mean, it's just intriguing to me that you've taken the time to be very kind, and I really appreciate the audience. And your input is terrific. So please stay with me. At the end of the stream, I'm going to ask you a few questions here about things I've been thinking about, and I'm going to need your help. So hang on. Let's get down to this last sketch here. I'm just going to go this real rapidly here. Let's go back to something horizontal. Draw through it. A little bit of a parabolic moon there. Just going to take this thing and break it up. Let's extend that screen out. Pardon me as I rotate just a bit. Now, same process again. Here's my center line. This is static screen in here, and if the phone comes in, you just kind of slide it out. You've got a full panorama here. Maybe it's an image or a photograph you're trying to take of some sort. But that's it. Always love to watch. Hanging on. Hey, very good, Chip. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm almost wrapping it up here, so thank you, gang, for hanging on here. It's got a little bit of tint in this thing, and we'll wrap it up. A little bit of graphics in this thing. And a bit of a value change in here. Let's kind of get these guys. This potentially could be the trigger release. Press on that, out goes the screen, etc. There's our direction here. Let me get a good sharp stick on this guy. Again, this portion here is all glass. Let's give a little bit of tint in this. Pardon me as I come around. There you go. And the highlight. Is that better? There we go. Get that out of the way. A bit of lens motion there. That's it. Come out of this thing. Let's put a little bit of tint in this thing now. Here's more of a mapping device where you've got something that's kind of doing this, and there's your destination point. Intersections, major roads, destination, and there it is. Starting point, origin of. A bit of graphics in here. Got a little bit of telltale sign there as you're moving along the whole process, so that's it. Let's do this. That actually comes back and that whole screen moves out. And moves in. A bit of color. A little bit of color. So there we have it, folks. I'll just put these, if I get these go side by side, if I get enough to fit in the screen. No, we won't, but that's one at a time. So we started with this nice series of sketches here in terms of putting together what we want to develop for some of these iPhone studies. Just a series of nice loose little cosmetic changes. Maybe it's color change or tint or feature movement and so forth. That's it. Just neat little things in terms of what do you do with the surface backside. Maybe it's got a little charger element in it. Maybe it's just pure cosmetic. Maybe the glass moves. Maybe it's just a static, just a simple split line that opens up. That could be an animated that protects the screen. Maybe this door just kind of pivots on itself. This actually flips open. Typical, and again, color here, and that might slide up or down to give you the availability. But again, just looking at what if studies, And here's a second one here, just getting a little more animated with moving screens and things that kind of get much more articulated. Just a simple form here, but it's a little more shape to it. It's almost mouse-like. You can actually double that up for that tactic itself. I had that cell phone. Hey, all right. Again, moving screen, more horizontal. This kind of goes vertical. It gives you more of a pictographic. This whole thing can become screen itself. That can kind of come up and be flush. So, but the idea here is that when it turns on, it just kind of slides up, gives you a directory, whatever you need, and you go from there. Same thing with this one. So it slides through. So let's kind of do this. Sign this stuff. And then last but not least, I just want to take a moment here to close it to sincerely thank all of you for staying with me here today on this Wednesday afternoon. Really appreciate your time, obviously. And I've got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. I would really like to introduce to you something that I've been thinking about for the last 2 to 3 weeks. Let me read this. I had the Motorola that was, yeah, me too. I've been just thinking about a couple of things here over the last couple of weeks and putting together these streams, and I'm getting a lot of feedback or conversations about what do you use, how do you do this, how do you do that. If you'd be kind enough to give me some information here, I'm really appealing to each one of you, and again, pass it on to your friends as well that might be interested in watching my stream here. What kind of things can I do? I'm going to try to turn the corner and maybe make Mondays like a teaching day. And if that teaching day involves certain things, for example, like perspective or light source or shape or form or contour, what kind of things could I do here on Mondays to help you if you tune in to the stream on Mondays, that we could kind of call that a teaching day for about an hour or two, but probably about an hour. So if there are things you've got interest in or you'd like to see done, please feel free to drop a note to my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. I would like to just get your feedback on what that teaching session, what those sessions could look like, and what the content might be to help you. There's a lot of things we can cover in this stuff. I might go on and render, but I think the things that might really be of some asset to you, I'm really much more concerned about giving you the input that you're after in terms of what the stream means to me and as well as to you. So I'm here to help and assist. I don't want to become just a wrist and go through things on Monday, Wednesday, Friday and just draw. But if we take one of those days and dedicate it to you and your needs, I would love to do that. And please, again, contact me with any information or ideas you might have to jim@drcontrast.com. I might start on Monday by just going to maybe a simple perspective lesson. How do you begin to build that thing? How do you build, for example, a shape? What's the proportion do? What does a cube mean? How do you build a cube? How do you use that cube to develop an idea? And there's so many things in this whole concept that's just amazing to me, how it never grows old. It's always exciting. But I think the most exciting thing about it, I want to present this whole process of this Twitter thing to be this whole concept of Twitch to become an absolute crescendo for you. I want it to matter for you. I mean, I'm really thoroughly thrilled and enjoying the fact that you've been very kind to me over the past few months and tuning in and watching. But love to have your input here and let me know what you're interested in. And secondly, again, if you have any interest in the website is still under construction, so I apologize for that. I mentioned to Captain Nemo earlier, but we're trying to wrap it up. We've changed everything in the platform. It's all been turned over. It's all been redone. So hopefully that whole thing is really interesting. That's kind of put together. I got a question here from Shozan. I've never had even a basic art class, so even intersecting lines and perspective confuses the heck out of me. Well, maybe that's something we can work at, Shazan. If that helps you at all, that's really something you'd like to look into. We're more than happy to do that. I mean, perspective is become the real evil sister of the whole creative process. But if you understand how simple it can become and how to utilize it, and how to work with it as a building block, it's absolutely amazing. I'm really interesting about the idea of drawing. And to me, great drawing, there's no secret, for example, that perspective to me is the genesis of illustration. And I want to say that again. Perspective is the genesis of illustration. If we can understand perspective, how it functions, what space does, what near space does, what inner space and deep space does, it's absolutely amazing what can happen. All the sketches I do, for example, on my Monday, Wednesday, Friday streams, they would not be possible if I didn't have a tremendous instructor named Sid Mead, who really was tremendous at perspective. That guy knew it like the back of his hand. He knew it so well. He taught us how to cheat perspective but you can't cheat something until you understand it. So that's what I'd like to really dedicate some time to, is making sure that your enthusiasm for what you do and your craft and your gift is as powerful as it can become. So I want to do more than just become the guy drawing things on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I want to become more of an instructor. If I can help you do things, marvelous. I mean, that's what we're here for. Sort of be redundant, but take some notes. Drop me a note of interest of certain subjects you'd like to see. Again, my website, my email address, the direct office is jim@drcontrast.com. That shows on another comment. When you look at objects, do you naturally see the lines? That's a great question, Shazan. When I look at objects, yes, I do see the lines, but here's the most important thing about understanding how to begin to illustrate what you see. You see the object itself, but this is going to be kind of hard, and maybe I'll do a demonstration on Friday to kind of help you through this process. You can see the object, but what I've gotten in the habit of doing, and again, this comes from tremendous tutoring from guys like Sid Mead, Lagasse, all the greats I've worked with over the years. Their whole secret of success is don't draw the object, draw the structure. What's it made out of? For example, these sketches here, yeah, they're iPhone studies. They're little scratchy sketches. They're really rough studies, but they're all built on learning how to see the shape itself. What's the structure? What's it governed by? Is it governed by a rectangle? Is it governed by a circle? Is it governed by a circle in perspective? Is it a chamfer? That's what I look at. I don't draw the objects. When I draw an automobile, for example, let me use this. When I draw an automobile, such as this Audi GT, I'm not drawing that car. I'm drawing the object that it sits in. This is one big rectangular form. In that rectangular form, all I'm doing is just chiseling out the shapes. So back to Captain Nemo's comment, enthusiasm. Well, yeah, it is. Think about what we have, gang. All of you listening here today, every one of you have been given a tremendous gift. You can't buy it. It can't be bought, but it can be perfected. It can be disciplined. So that's what I want to really kind of dedicate my time to here. But my enthusiasm is I've been so fortunate over the course of time to work with great people. I want you to be part of that group. I want to be a service to you so that I can really help you see some things and make a big difference in your career. I'm not going to make the difference. You will. But I think it comes down to learning how to just go through the corridors of time about how that whole thing turned out. It all comes down to understanding what geometry does, Shazan. It's not the object you're looking at. What's it made out of? How do we build it? And I go into things like the geometric solids and do a lesson plan on that and show you how the solids work and then how to convert that into a product or an automobile or whatever. I would love to do that. That's why I'm involved in Twitch. I'm just grateful for the fact that you folks have been really here with me every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I hope I can say this too. Please tell your friends. I would love to build my audience here. I want to get to a place where I'm just streaming all the time and having fun doing it and helping you along the way. And Shazan had an answer. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Experience isn't that way. Da Vinci, someone did sculpture. Start with the shape. Reveal the thing. Yeah, that's a great point, Shazan. There's a great line in his memoirs. I don't know how true it is, but Pope Julius made a comment about the fact that he asked Leonardo da Vinci, Master, how do you do this? How do you do such great sculptural work? Da Vinci's answer was terrific and timeless. One chip at a time, Your Highness, one chip at a time. That's a great line. Think about it. That's how we draw. We draw things one line at a time, line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little bit, there a little bit. We kind of slowly build this thing, and it's just great to see it all come together. So I want to show you this in closing here, folks. So thanks for letting me ramble on here about this whole lesson plan thing. Stay tuned, for example, maybe on Friday, I might do a little F-35 stuff, some aircraft stuff. I'm not quite sure yet. Or else I'm going to go back into the retro files and maybe do a redo of the great Auto Union C3 16-cylinder engine of the 30s. That's what's great about the stream. You can kind of pick your choose and poison and go at it here. But I want to show you something here in closing here. I've been working on this for the last couple of days. I don't know if this will show or not, but there it is right there. There we go. I've been very fortunate over the last few weeks. I was just notified here, was it last week, that I've been invited to become a celebrity judge for the Corvettes of Carlisle. I've been involved with them for the last few years, do a lot of charity work with Lance Miller's Foundation out in Pennsylvania, and I dedicate a lot of my work for auction, so it helps their cause physically and for his father's cause. So I'm putting this special piece together to be auctioned off at the Carlisle event. This is an advanced study. This is one of the early concept sketches of the C8 Corvette when I was at General Motors design staff. So this will be all finished up. When I get it all done, I'll probably put it back on stream and let you see what it's all about. But this is an early study for C8, and I've got two other pieces I'm going out to Carlisle with to be auctioned off for a great physical cause. I've been very fortunate to be with those guys for about the last 5 or 6 years. I have a great relationship with them, and we're going to keep it going. So that's another question there. Starship Nemo. By the way, what about the process on the G12R or NDA progress? Yeah, the NDA. We had a great meeting, Captain Nemo, last Thursday with some really hotshot racing guys here in town, and we've got some great input. So I'm going to start doing a generation series of sketches here, probably before the end of this week, and then we'll keep you posted on what the development is. So it's coming along very nicely. We're going to modify the whole process. We got some great input from some individuals. Pixel was there with us and Shadow. So we've got some great input from a family here in town that really understands the racing business. And they would agree with us that G12 needs a lot of work. And they gave us some good ground rules to work with to make a big difference in it. Let's see, was it New Hampshire 08? Want to become famous by followers, primes and views, and big followers come. Oh, interesting. I don't know what that is, but that is, thank you very much, 108. It's good to have you come on board here. So I hope that answers the question for you, Captain Nemo, on the G12. We're going full steam ahead, and I don't think you're going to recognize it now. We're going to get with a fresh sheet of paper and really kind of put this thing together here and have a lot of fun with it. So the next step is to put some of the aero systems together, some of the racing packages together, and we're going to wrap up the intermediate piece. Then we're going to go directly to the GTR, which you've got great ground rules on. So all that to say, and thank you so much for joining me today. Always I'm grateful for the fact you've taken the time, and you don't know how much I appreciate each one of you. And it's been a blessing to be a part of the process today. And again, I'm looking forward to input from you on what to do with these teaching days and some of the other things you might want to look at. So feel free to, again, drop me a note at Dr. Jim at drcontrast.com. And again, my website should be up. Hopefully, we've had a lot of changes in that. So my website should be up in the next few days. Again, that's at drcontrast.com. So stay tuned. And if you're interested, and again, I can't stress this enough, please, if you like what you see, tell me. If you don't like what you see, tell me. And I don't want to be solicitous here, but I would love to have you all pass the word to some of your friends about, I want to get more followers on this thing so we can get more and people become a disease and become so enthused about this creative process that no one can stop us. No one can anyhow. It's a bigger issue than we can have time to deal with. So again, I want to make a difference in your careers, and you've made a difference in my career. And again, thank you so much for all that you've done for me. All that to say, never forget to remember to dare to be great. Have a tremendous day, and look forward to seeing you on Friday. All the best, gang. Thank you for your time.